Hi, this is John with Brockworks with a quick tutorial on how to use Profile Builder 2 to create a wall assembly, just a simple stud wall assembly. In this case, I've got a bottom plate which is treated to go on this concrete, which is a profile that I used Profile Builder dialog to create my own lumber library. It comes preloaded with quite a bit though. And these are SPF 2x4 plates for on top, double top plate. And these are studs, which are 104 and 5/8 inch 2x4 studs that are components in my library. So having those, we can go ahead and make the assembly. Choosing the assembler dialog, I'm going to do a new assembly and I'm going to call this a 2x4 wall. You can add whatever description you want in here. You could say, 2x4 wall with treated bottom plate, 104 and 5/8 studs, double top plate, whatever you want to say. This is a preview window, which there's nothing in there yet, but you'll start seeing this as you build your assembly. So the first thing we're going to do is add a profile member. So I'm going to click the Add button. And in this case, you can either pick from the model, a profile that's in your model already, or you can choose from your library. Since I already have it in the model, I'm going to say Pick from Model, and I'm going to choose the bottom plate. You'll see it in the preview window, and you can name it if you'd like. Then the next step is I want to add the studs. So I go to Component tab, click on the Add button, choose Pick from Model, pick one of these studs, and be mindful of the axes of your components that you're adding in. In this case, I wanted the axis to be at the bottom of the stud, bottom edge of the stud, and if you may get an erroneous result if the axis was someplace else. So just check that. You can right click on it and say Change Axes if need be. Alright, it defaults to 8-foot centers. I'm going to make this 16 inches on center. Okay, and I'm going to deselect max. What max will do is just, it'll maximum of 16 inches, but it'll evenly space them when you draw the wall. In our case, in our real world here, I want 16 inches on center for my studs. Okay, so I'm going to deselect the max button. That forces them to be 16 inches on center, and I want to do it from the start. I want a 2x4 right from the start. Okay, now you'll notice up here in this graphic here that there's not a stud at the end of the wall. We need to force a stud at the end of this wall, so I'm going to add another component. So just hit the plus button. I'm going to choose the stud again. This time I'm going to deselect this infill and choose it to be at the end. Alright, now one thing I did not do in the previous step, let me go back to that first stud component. I need to bump that up 1.5 inches in elevation because it's sitting on top of an 1.5 inch tall plate. Okay, that's just move these up. You can't really see this dialog box. I'll go to the second component, which is the other stud, the end stud, and I'm going to give it an elevation of 1.5 inches as well. Now the last thing I want to do is I'm going to change the end setback to 1.5 inches from the end so that the stud flushes with the end of the plate. Okay, so now that we've done that, you could even do a test if you like. Down here at the build assembly, you could just start drawing it and see if it's working. And I can see my studs and I see my plate at the end. It works great. So I'm going to delete that. Alright, now I'm going to go back to profile to add my top plates. In this case, I'm going to add a profile. I'm going to pick from model this top plate here, and I'm going to assign its elevation to be up plus the 1.5 inches plus the 104 and 5/8. So that gives me a total height of 8'10" and 1/8 inch, and that should pop a plate at the top. Okay, then we're going to add our double top plate here. I'm going to do the same thing, pick that same 2x4 profile, and in this case it's sitting on top of that plate, so that's height is 8'11" and 5/8. So that's going to tack on that extra plate. So now when we choose the build assembly, I can just start drawing it, and you can see how it put one at the end. You can also, let's say I just drew a line around here and I wanted to build it along that path. I could choose this line and this line and choose this command, build along path. Boom, done. Alright, now you'll notice it puts a stud at the end of each wall here, but I need a corner of this, so I'm going to just delete that right now. I'm going to go ahead and draw a section around all 4 walls here. Okay, now you'll notice it draws it perfectly, nice walls, it's in a group. Okay, and what I'm going to do at the end here, since it's got a stud at the end and it's sort of an overlapping thing in here, I'm going to take this end stud that's here and I'm going to move it beside there. Again, I just double click to edit inside this group, and I'm going to copy this one ×2. Now I've got it clean the way I would build it. One stud at the end and 3 in the corner. So that's a quick tutorial on how to build a framed wall. I'll do a follow-up with this, how to use quantifier, so you can get an estimate for this lumber. All right, thanks.